The year was 2347, and humanity had finally joined the stars. Earth was now part of the Galactic Coalition, a group of alien species who had traveled space for thousands of years. But among these ancient civilizations, humans were still considered young, weak, and unimportant. They were the newcomers who had barely left their own solar system. Park stood near the observation window of the space station called Eternal Dawn. He was 32 years old, with tired eyes and a calm face that rarely showed emotion. He had been a soldier once, but he found that he was better at talking than fighting. So he became a diplomat, speaking for Earth among the stars. The alarm suddenly screamed through the station. Red lights flashed everywhere. Ran to the command center where dozens of aliens and humans stared at the main screen with fear in their eyes. 300 warships had appeared from hyperspace. They were massive, dark, and covered with weapons that could destroy planets. The symbol on their hulls was known throughout the galaxy. It was the mark of the Empire. They were one of the oldest and most powerful species in existence. They stood 8 feet tall with silver skin and 4 arms. Their empire controlled 12 star systems. They were warriors who believed that strength was everything and weakness deserved death. A message came through. The screen flickered and then she appeared. Queen Nara of the Empire sat on a throne made of black metal. She was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Her silver skin glowed under the lights of her ship. Her 4 arms rested on her throne like a spider waiting for prey. Her eyes were pure gold and they held no warmth. "Humans of Earth," her voice echoed through the station. "You have committed a great crime against the Empire. Your colony on the moon you call Haven sits upon the burial ground of our ancestors. This is a violation of our most sacred law." Felt his heart go cold. Haven was a small mining colony. Nobody had known there were alien remains there. "The punishment for this crime is extinction," Queen Nara continued. "Your species will be erased from the galaxy." Panic spread through the command center. People screamed. Some cried, remained still, watching, listening. But then the Queen raised one of her hands. "However," she said, "there is another way. My youngest daughter, Princess, has reached the age of bonding. According to our ancient law, a marriage alliance can wash away any crime, no matter how terrible." She leaned forward on her throne. "Send me a human male to marry my daughter. You have 30 Earth days. If you refuse or if the male is unworthy, the war begins." The screen went black. The next few days were chaos. Earth's government argued and screamed at each other. The Galactic Coalition offered no help. They were too afraid of some said it was a trap. Others said any man who went would die horribly. Rumors spread about Princess. They said she was a monster even among her own people. 8 feet tall with claws that could cut through metal. Every male had rejected her. Some said she had killed her previous suitors. Others whispered darker things. No one volunteered. Spent those days reading everything he could find about them. He read their history, their culture, their traditions, and he found something interesting hidden in the old records. Princess had not been rejected because she was violent. She had been rejected because she was not violent enough. In a society that strength and aggression, she was considered defective, too soft, too curious, too gentle. On the 25th day, when Earth had almost given up hope, walked into the Coalition Council chamber. "I volunteer," he said simply. Everyone stared at him like he was insane. "You will die," said the Coalition chairman, an old alien with blue skin. "They will tear you apart." "Maybe," replied, "but I have read about the princess. She has been rejected all her life for being kind. Perhaps she does not need a warrior. Perhaps she needs someone who understands what it means to be considered weak." They argued with him for hours. They told him he was throwing his life away. They offered money, fame, anything if he would change his mind. He refused. On the 28th day, a small shuttle carried toward the flagship. It was called the Crown of Thorns, and it was bigger than some moons. As his shuttle entered the landing bay, he saw hundreds of warriors watching him. Their golden eyes were filled with disgust and hunger, like wolves looking at a lamb. He walked alone through corridors made of dark metal. The air smelled strange, like flowers and blood mixed together. His footsteps echoed in the silence. Finally, he reached the throne room. The doors were 20 feet tall and covered with carvings of battles and conquests. Two guards looked down at him with hatred. "The human for the princess," one of them laughed. "I give him 3 days before she breaks him." "2 days," the other replied. Said nothing, he simply waited. The great doors began to open. Golden light poured out from inside. He heard whispers and saw shadows moving within. Park, the diplomat from Earth, the man who preferred talking to fighting, took a deep breath. Then he walked into the throne room. The doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. The throne room was vast, bigger than any building had ever seen on Earth. Pillars of black stone reached up toward a ceiling lost in darkness. Hundreds of nobles stood on both sides, their silver skin glowing, their golden eyes watching him with disgust. At the far end sat Queen Nara on her throne of black metal. She looked even more terrifying in person. Her 4 arms were decorated with golden bands, and a crown of sharp crystals sat upon her head. "So," she said, her voice filling the entire room, "this is what humanity sends us. A small, soft creature with only 2 arms." Laughter echoed through the throne room. The nobles found this very amusing. Walked forward slowly. He kept his back straight and his eyes forward. He would not show fear. He had learned long ago that fear was like blood in water. It only made predators hungrier. "I am Park, ambassador of Earth," he said clearly. "I have come to meet Princess." More laughter. Queen Nara raised one hand and the room went silent. "Bring my daughter," she commanded. A door opened on the side of the room. Turned to look, and his breath caught in his throat. Princess walked into the throne room. She was tall, even taller than he expected. Her skin was silver with hints of blue, like moonlight on water. She had the 4 arms of her people, but they seemed more graceful than threatening. Her face was sharp and beautiful, with high cheekbones and full lips. But it was her eyes that caught him. They were violet, not gold like the others, and they held no cruelty, no hunger. Instead, he saw something he recognized. Fear, loneliness, hope carefully hidden. The nobles whispered and sneered as she passed, heard words like defective and shame of the empire. Kept her eyes forward, but he saw how her shoulders tensed with each insult. She stopped a few feet away from him. Up close, she was overwhelming. Her claws could tear him apart in seconds. Her strength could crush him like paper. But her eyes were gentle. Did something that made everyone gasp. He bowed to her, a deep, respectful bow that humans used to show honor. The throne room exploded with angry voices. "How dare he? The insect bows as if she is his equal. This is mockery." In culture, bowing was what the weak did to the strong. For to bow to suggested he saw himself as her equal, not her inferior. It was a terrible insult. Or was it? Stared at him with wide eyes. No one had ever bowed to her before, not with respect. She had only received mockery and pity her entire life. "Why did you do that?" she asked. Her voice was softer than he expected. "On Earth," replied, "we bow to show respect. I respect you, Princess." She blinked several times, confused. "You do not even know me." "I know enough. I know that your people rejected you for being kind. On Earth, we consider kindness a strength, not a weakness." The nobles continued to shout, but Queen Nara silenced them again. She studied with new interest. "Take the human to the guest quarters," she ordered. "The wedding preparations will begin tomorrow." Over the following days, and spent time together. It was required by tradition for the couple to learn about each other before the bonding ceremony. At first was quiet and careful. She expected him to be afraid of her like everyone else. She expected him to look at her with disgust. But surprised her. He asked questions about her interests, her dreams, her thoughts. He listened when she spoke. He treated her like a person, not a monster. Slowly, she began to open up. "I have studied your species for many years," she admitted one evening. They were walking through the ship's art gallery, a place no outsider had ever seen. "Humans fascinate me. You are so weak compared to other species, yet you have accomplished so much." "We learn to work together," said. "When you cannot do something alone, you find others to help. The belief in individual strength. Asking for help is shameful." "That sounds lonely." Stopped walking. She turned to look at him with those violet eyes. "It is," she whispered, "very lonely." From that moment, something changed between them. They were no longer just strangers forced together by politics. They were two lonely souls who had finally found someone who understood. But the court was not happy. Every day the nobles watched with growing hatred. This weak human was treating their princess as an equal. He was not afraid. He did not beg or grovel. He acted like he belonged. One evening, a tall noble named Lord approached them during dinner. He was a famous warrior with scars covering his arms. "Look at the Empire's shame," he sneered at. "Now married to an insect. You bring dishonor to the royal blood." Stood up slowly. He was a foot shorter than Lord and had no weapons. Every in the room expected him to apologize or run. Instead, he spoke calmly. "Any culture that considers kindness a weakness has already begun to fall. The princess has more honor in one finger than this entire court." Silence filled the room. Lord's face twisted with rage. "You dare?" "I dare," interrupted. "Now please leave. You are ruining our meal." Lord looked ready to kill, but attacking the princess's chosen would mean death. He stormed away, promising revenge. That night Queen Nara summoned to her private chamber. She sat alone, without guards or servants. "You are either very brave or very foolish," she said. "Perhaps both, your majesty." "The wedding will happen in 10 days. The bonding trials will test your worth." She leaned forward. "My daughter's life is now tied to yours. If you fail her, if you hurt her, your entire species will burn." Met her golden eyes without flinching. "I will not fail her." The queen smiled, showing teeth like knives. "We shall see, human, we shall see." There was called Prime. It was a planet of black mountains, silver forests, and oceans that glowed purple under the twin moons. Had never seen anything so beautiful or so terrifying. The bonding trials would take place in an ancient arena carved into the largest mountain. Millions had gathered to watch. Billions more watched through screens across the empire. They had come to see the human fail. They had come to see him die. Stood with him before the arena gates. Her violet eyes were filled with worry. "You do not have to do this," she said quietly. "I can refuse the bonding, I can." "And start a war," shook his head. "No, I will not let billions die because I was afraid. The trials are designed to kill. No outsider has ever survived." He reached out and gently touched her hand. She flinched at first, then relaxed. No one had touched her kindly in years. "I may not be strong," he said, "but I am very stubborn, you will see." The gates opened, walked into the arena alone. The first trial was called the Trial of Body. A massive warrior stood waiting in the center of the arena. His name was, and he was the champion of the Empire. He had killed over 200 enemies in single combat. Looked at and laughed. "This is the human. I will try not to kill him too quickly." The crowd roared with excitement. The trial began. Attacked with terrifying speed, his forearms swung like hammers. Each blow could break bones. Each strike could end a life. Did not try to fight back. He could not match strength. Instead, he did something they did not understand. He dodged, he moved, he ran. And when finally caught him, when the blows landed and sent him crashing to the ground, got back up. Again and again, every time he fell, he stood back up. Blood poured from his face, his ribs cracked, his left arm hung useless at his side, but he kept standing. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 3. The crowd grew quiet. This was not entertainment anymore. This was something else, something disturbing. Was breathing hard, were built for quick, powerful attacks. They were not built for long fights. Their bodies overheated. Their muscles grew tired. But the human kept getting up. "Why will you not stay down?" shouted, confused and angry. Spat blood and smiled with broken lips. "Humans are persistent hunters," he said. "On our world, we chased animals until they dropped from exhaustion. We may be weak, but we never stop." 6 hours into the trial, fell to his knees, completely exhausted. He could not continue. The human was barely standing, covered in blood and bruises, but he was still standing. The judges declared the trial complete, had passed. The crowd was silent. The second trial was called the Trial of Mind, was placed in a simulation where he commanded a fleet against an enemy force. The twist was that civilians were trapped in the battle zone. The solution was always the same: accept losses, destroy the enemy, move on. But when saw the civilian ships, he did something unexpected. He opened communications with the enemy. "What are you doing?" the judges demanded. "This is a test of war." "You said I must defeat the enemy," replied. "You did not say how." He talked to the enemy commander. He learned that the enemy was attacking because they believed the civilians were prisoners. He explained the truth. He negotiated a ceasefire. 0 civilian deaths, 0 combat, complete success. The judges argued for hours. Some said it was cheating, others said it was cowardice, but stood and spoke. "The rules say he must defeat the enemy and save the civilians. He did both. Nowhere do the rules forbid talking." The trial was ruled a pass. The third trial was called the Trial of Spirit. This was where all previous suitors had failed with. In tradition, the male must dominate the female. He must prove he is stronger, that he can control her. Previous suitors had tried to force into submission. She had refused, and they had given up or been injured by her defensive instincts. Walked into the final arena. Stood waiting, her body tense. She knew what was expected. She knew he would try to dominate her like the others. Instead, dropped to his knees before her. The crowd gasped. The judges leaned forward. "What is this?" Queen Nara demanded. Looked up at with gentle eyes. "I will not dominate you," he said clearly. "I do not want a slave or a servant. I want a partner, someone who walks beside me, not behind me." He reached out his hand. "On Earth, this is how we bond, not through force, through choice. 2 people choosing each other as equals." Tears formed in his violet eyes. All her life she had been told she was wrong, too weak, too soft, defective. But this human saw her differently. She dropped to her knees too, facing him. The crowd erupted in confusion and anger. This was not tradition. This was not proper. But did not care anymore. "I accept," she said, "not as your lesser, as your equal." She took his hand. The judges did not know what to do. Nothing like this had ever happened. But Queen Nara raised her hand for silence. "The trials are complete," she declared. "The human has proven himself worthy." The arena fell silent. Against all odds, the weak human had survived. But watching from the military section, Admiral gripped his seat with rage. His golden eyes burned with hatred. This could not be allowed. A human in the royal bloodline was unacceptable. He would stop this marriage, even if it meant war. After the trials, everything changed. The who had mocked now watched him with confusion and a strange respect. He had not beaten them with strength. He had beaten them by being something they did not understand. But not everyone accepted the results. Admiral was the commander of the war fleet. He was old, even by standards, with silver skin marked by countless battle scars. His eyes were colder than space itself. For centuries, he had protected the Empire from all threats. And now he saw the greatest threat of all. A human in the royal family. In his private chambers aboard his flagship, met with a group of loyal officers. "This cannot happen," he said, his voice like grinding metal. "If the human marries the princess, our bloodline will be polluted, our strength will fade, we will become weak like them." "What do you suggest, Admiral?" asked one of his captains. "The wedding ceremony will be attended by thousands. It will be broadcast across the galaxy." His lips curled into a cruel smile, a perfect moment for tragedy to strike. The plan was simple. Assassins would kill both and during the ceremony. The blame would fall on human agents. The Empire would have the excuse it needed to destroy Earth. The impure bloodline would be erased, and the wood remain strong. But had made one mistake. He thought no one would betray him. Lady Myra was a minor noble who served in the palace. She had silver skin like all, but her eyes were unusual. They were green, not gold. This meant she had mixed blood from generations ago, and she had faced discrimination her entire life. Years ago, her ship had been attacked by pirates. She had been left floating in space, waiting to die. A human trading vessel had found her and saved her life. They had expected nothing in return. That kindness had changed her. When she heard whispers of the conspiracy, she knew she had to act. She found alone in the palace gardens and told him everything. "They will kill you both during the ceremony," she said quickly. "Admiral has assassins everywhere. You must escape." Listened calmly. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "If I run," he said, "we'll claim humans are cowards, the war will happen anyway, we'll be shamed, nothing will be solved." "Then what will you do?" "I will talk to him." Myra stared at him like he was insane. "Talk to him, he wants to kill you." "Then I have nothing to lose." That night sent a message to Admiral requesting a private meeting. He expected refusal or a trap. Instead, agreed. Perhaps he was curious. Perhaps he wanted to see the human beg. They met in a small room deep inside the palace. No guards, no witnesses, just the old admiral and the young human. Sat across from, his forearms crossed. His golden eyes showed nothing but contempt. "You are either very brave or very stupid," he said. "I could kill you right now and no one would ever know." "You could," agreed, "but you have not, which means you want something, even if that something is just to understand why I am here." Was silent for a moment, then he spoke. Why would a human volunteer to marry a? You must know you are hated. You must know you will never belong. So why?" Thought carefully before answering. "Tell me about your family, Admiral." His eyes widened slightly. No one had asked him that question in centuries. "They are dead," he said flatly. "Killed by raiders 300 years ago, my wife, my children all gone." "I am sorry. I do not want your pity." "It is not pity, it is understanding." Leaned forward. "You hate outsiders because outsiders took everything from you. You have spent 300 years building walls around your heart, protecting yourself with anger and violence." His hands gripped the table. "You know nothing about me." "I know pain," said quietly. "I know loss. My parents died when I was young. My brother died in a war that should never have happened. I spent years filled with anger, wanting revenge, wanting to hurt the people who hurt me. And what happened? I realized that anger was a prison. The more I hated, the more I suffered. The people who hurt me were long gone, but I was still trapped by what they did." He met's eyes. "You have trapped yourself, Admiral. You have spent 300 years in a prison of your own making." Stood up suddenly, his chair crashing behind him. "You dare lecture me. You are nothing, an insect. I have conquered worlds." And yet you are still angry, still alone, still hurting. Did not move, did not flinch. Conquering worlds did not bring your family back. Killing me will not bring them back. Nothing will. All you can do is choose what happens next. The room was silent, breathed heavily, his hands shaking. I could destroy your entire species, he whispered. You could, and then another enemy would appear, and another. You would fight until you died bitter and alone, or paused. You could let one human into your empire. You could see what happens when you stop fighting and start trusting. Stared at him for a long time. Something shifted in those golden eyes. Something cracked. I will consider your words, he said finally, but I make no promises. He turned and walked away. Sat alone in the empty room, not knowing if he had succeeded or signed his death warrant. The wedding was tomorrow. He would find out soon enough. The Grand Temple of Prime was the oldest building in the empire. It had stood for 10,000 years, surviving wars, earthquakes, and the rise and fall of dynasties. Today, it would witness something that had never happened before. The marriage of a human and a princess. Billions watched across the galaxy. Every species, every world, every space station had their eyes on this moment. The Galactic Coalition held its breath. Earth prayed for its son. Stood at the altar wearing a simple black suit. It was Earth fashion, not. Some saw it as an insult. He saw it as pride in who he was. Princess walked toward him down the long aisle. She wore traditional armor, silver and gleaming, but she had made changes. Earth flowers were woven into her hair, small blue roses that had told her about during their conversations. She was beautiful, not despite being alien but completely, wonderfully beautiful. Queen Nara stood at the altar to perform the ceremony. Her golden eyes moved between her daughter and the human. Her expression was unreadable. The temple was filled with thousands of nobles, warriors, and politicians. Coalition diplomats sat in a special section, looking nervous. Everyone felt the tension in the air. And in the military gallery, Admiral sat with his hand near his weapon. Saw the assassins. They were hidden in the shadows behind pillars among the crowd. Their weapons were ready. They were waiting for the signal. He looked at. The old admiral met his eyes. This was the moment, life or death, peace or war. Turned back to and took her hands. He would not show fear. If this was his end, he would face it standing tall. The ceremony began. Queen Nara spoke the ancient words of bonding. She asked the traditional questions about strength and loyalty and duty, answered each one clearly. The moment approached, the final vows, the moment when the assassins would strike. His heart pounded. He kept his eyes on. Her violet eyes were filled with love and hope. Whatever happened, he would protect that hope. Do you, Park of Earth, accept of the Empire as your bonded partner? Queen Nara asked. Do you swear to stand beside her, to protect her, to honor her until your last breath? I do, said. Do you, of the Empire, accept Park of Earth as your bonded partner? Do you swear to stand beside him, to protect him, to honor him until your last breath? Smiled, tears in her eyes. I do. Queen Nara raised her hands. Then by the ancient laws of our empire, I declare you. Saw movement in the shadows. The assassins were moving. But then nothing. The assassins stopped. They looked up at the military gallery, confused. Admiral had stood up. His hand was raised, the signal to stop. He looked at across the vast temple. Two enemies, two people who should have destroyed each other. Lowered his hand slowly. Then, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. Stand down. The assassins melted back into the shadows. The moment passed. Nobody else had noticed. Queen Nara finished the ceremony. I declare you bonded. From this day forward you are one. The temple erupted. Some cheered. Many stayed silent, unsure what to feel, but it was done, and were married. But the queen was not finished. She raised her hands for silence. Today I do not merely gain a son. she announced, her voice echoing through the temple and across the galaxy. Today, the Empire gained something more. She looked at with something that might have been respect. This human came to us as an enemy. He came weak and alone, yet he survived our trials. He showed courage we did not expect. He showed wisdom we did not understand. She paused. Perhaps we have been wrong. Perhaps strength is not only in muscles and weapons. Perhaps there is strength in kindness, in patience, in the stubborn refusal to give up. She turned to the watching galaxy. I declare this. From this day forward, any who harm humans harm the Empire. Earth is under our protection. We will defend them as we defend our own worlds. Shock rippled across the galaxy. Earth, the weak newcomers, had just gained the most powerful ally in existence. In the military gallery, Admiral closed his eyes. His war was over. The hatred that had consumed him for 300 years finally began to fade. 5 years later, much had changed. Park was now Prince Consort, the official bridge between human and cultures. He had helped open schools, trade routes, and diplomatic channels. Species that had never spoken now shared ideas and dreams. Had become a symbol of a new generation of. Her kindness, once considered a weakness, was now seen as wisdom. Young looked up to her as proof that there was more than one way to be strong. They had twin children, half human, half. They were small miracles with silver skin, 2 arms each and violet eyes full of wonder, the first of a new generation. One evening, and stood on the balcony of their palace, watching the sun set over Prime. The sky burned with purple and gold. Rested her head on his shoulder. Do you ever regret it, she asked, leaving Earth coming here? Never, he said, not for 1 second. She smiled. Your species is strange. You are weak, yet you survived everything. You have short lives, yet you change the galaxy. You have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. We have something better, said. What? Stubborn optimism, he grinned. We simply refuse to accept that things cannot get better. Even when everything is against us, we keep trying. Shook her head with a laugh. Humans are terrifying. We prefer persistent. Far below, their children played in the gardens, their laughter echoing up to the balcony, the sound of the future. And across the galaxy, a new saying had spread. When things seemed impossible, when hope seemed lost, people would remember the human who had walked into an alien empire with nothing but courage and kindness. Never underestimate a human, they would say. They will either befriend you or outlast you. Usually both.